What's the big idea?
All right. We are here once again with another amazing episode of Volleyballology. And we are discussing today the important topic of when is it okay to quit, right? What is quitting and when is it okay to quit? Would you say that's about right, Eric?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And we've already
What
been
episode number is this?
This is episode number 30.
No way.
Yep. The big 30.
Wow.
I know. 30 weeks, I guess, right? We've been doing it because we've been doing a show a week.
Yep.
So that's not bad.
All right.
We had a good run.
I guess we'll keep going.
Well, or not. Maybe
not.
this is it. The finale.
We're just threatening the one listener we have every time. That's all it is. It's just a
Send
threat.
money. No.
Yeah.
No. So this one it's a good time of year for this. I think no matter when you're listening to this, if you're a few months, I mean, people could be listening to this, 10 years down the road. But the idea is that is it acceptable to quit? Because our culture sort of suggests quitting is bad, right? Particularly in team sports. But right now, a lot of parents, no matter what year you're listening to this or when you're listening to, I'm sure that there are a lot of parents and kids looking at the situation they're in and are wondering, is it, they're conflicted because of what society says about quitting, particularly in team sports, versus what they're going through right now. And there's a lot of situations out there. And I know a lot of coaches still don't understand this. When I was a young coach or when I was coaching in my younger years, I didn't understand the big picture of what was happening. So I would get very defensive about coaches. And we talked about this before. And we hear a lot of coaches who get defensive with what the stuff that we're saying, right, online and the show. But until you have a child go through the system, okay, so I'm going to, in our scenario, I had 2 daughters going through the system. My second daughter is in her final year of club right now. And we have never had a good club coach. And now some people might say that might be a reflection of us and our level of pickiness, but it's really not because we've had great.
It's really not coming from you.
Well,
I know.
No, but there's evidence that it's not just us. And the evidence is that we've had high school coaches that were very good. All we're asking for, we don't even need, as an X's and O's guy, I'm not even looking for X's and O's, but I'm looking for common sense from a coach. And and we have found that in a high school coach who understood her role and understood that, she would ask for advice from people who knew more, not just me, but even players. And then she had the winning mindset of, okay, let's cut out the toxicity. Let's cut out the negativity. If there's a teammate on the opposing team being a jerk, we don't get sucked into that. I saw her call a timeout when she saw that her players were getting goaded into negativity against an opposing player. She said, hey, listen, you guys don't get sucked into that garbage, she said, right? That
just comes from playing sports.
Yes,
right?
she was a high level. She was a Dragon Boat national team member and coach. So she's got this winning mentality.
And coach, yeah.
Yeah. So and then she brought the common sense of, asking for positioning help and then doing it. And then she was very assertive and firm with players in terms of consequences for the most part. And very logical, understanding that she needs to get people involved, understanding that people need to be ready, So so this isn't coming from a place of bitterness, but
there's a lot of people that agreed with you. Not to, I'm your buddy, but I've seen that one year and for sure I can't, but also at the same time, there's tons of other parents on the teams you guys were on.
Yes.
That they were, I think in the same state as you guys. Some of them, I think one team you have left before, right?
Yep.
Right. So you quit that year, but then
twice.
the
one
there's a bunch of parents who didn't though.
We
right?
had a child switch to another club in a mid-season because and again, just to show coaches out there who don't understand what's happening. This was when my daughter was 13 and 14, maybe 13, I think, and she was spin serving. And the coach, a female coach, was forbidding her from spin serving in practice.
I remember this year,
in games. Yeah. Okay, so then we were and she was good at it. Other coaches on other teams were like, "Hey, great spin serve, keep that going." And then this coach, her own coach, was forbidding it. And you'd ask her why,
Yeah.
And she didn't have a why other than just, it's my team and
Yep.
I'll coach it the way I want,
And
which
yep.
is not an answer, coaches, right? So that's a scenario where we were like, you know what? Club is it feels like a long thing, but club is a short life. So and we had another coach who was more willing, like more aggressive mindset. And, like any other coach in the world was happy to see a young girl serving aggressively, like any good coach, I should say.
So you quit that team?
So we switched from that club, went to another club.
Right.
And then this is what happens. So again, if you're just a coach living in your world, you need to understand, you won't understand this until you have your kids come and play. So if you are a high level player, or if you were a player and then you become a coach, and then, because I became a coach and I was defensive of other coaches too. I was defensive against parents.
Yeah.
But then when I became a parent and I saw just how bad the coaching, like there is an epidemic in youth volleyball, and it is the insecure coach who, once the players start to realize that what they're being taught isn't really good or accurate or doesn't work in games, and they start questioning, the coaches become really mean to the players. They start benching the players who question them. They punish them with physical activity. They punish them by running because they're questioning them. So what that is that's a tyrant losing control. So an insecure person who went into coaching just for the power is now losing control. And we have seen this on every team we've ever been with in club. Okay? These insecure coaches who just can't handle when players learn from somewhere else or something else. Not just my kid, like other kids throughout their whole time. I've seen it. And the coach tightens grip, because they're not in it for player development. They're in it for power. And the minute that power is threatened, they don't go, okay, let's try that. Or what's your theory on this? Why would you want to try this? Like I was sitting there. So coaches, listen, if anybody's listening to this,
I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. It's hard to like.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because it sounds like this is what certain governments do as well.
Yes, government. Anybody in power.
You threaten me, and I have this power. I will then use it or whatever, and like.
Yeah, it's universal. This is
what, So
this is what weak people do.
And I think that is part of what proves the reality that this does happen. Like, it's not like we're trying to convince you that.
No, it happens to teachers. It happens to your boss. It happens to governments.
Anyone in authority.
Anybody in authority who's threatened and they're in it to maintain power. This is what they do. And so like just standard defensive positioning. We have 6-back system, and you have an assistant coach telling players to stand in the deep corners as outside hitters,
where the ball lands,
rather than stand on the line like a defender. And they just don't get it. And then the players are asking, well, what about tips? Well, you'll have to get those too. You can't stand in the deep corner and get a tip. And not to mention if you're not on the line, so you can't even see the hitter because you're behind them. They're teaching players to stand behind blockers. So this is my world, right? And then they're just teaching all the wrong. This is what I really have a problem with. I don't care if you're an X's and O's person. If you're getting the X's and O's wrong as a coach, and you don't know you're getting them wrong, that's the sad thing. And you're not listening to people who know more. Then don't scream at the players when they don't succeed, because you're setting them up for failure, and then you're screaming at them. And we've seen that countless times in our club world, where as an educated volleyball parent, I'm sitting there just watching, and I'm like, okay, what you're teaching them is wrong, but I can live with it. But I can't live with it when you're screaming at the players for messing up because of your stupid system, because you don't know volleyball,
right?
And you just yell at them. And then they ask you about, well, shouldn't we stay? I learned this in a camp, or I learned this. And then that coach storms out of practice or punishes the team because they're not listening, which is absolute garbage. So that's what's happening in youth volleyball today. I would say 90% of teams. I'm
writing that down. Like, no, it's okay. Like, yeah. I agree, but that thing of like, don't scream at them when they start making the mistakes. Forever. That's like the best place to start for, like if we had a coach like who wanted some help right now or something, and they're trying to figure out, and they made a bunch of these errors. Like that's a huge one. Yeah. If you're gonna start somewhere, at least start with that. Like, sorry, I'm just thinking of how to like. Maybe we make like a list one day of all these things. I think we've already talked about it, like how to help a coach get better or whatever, because. Again, we run into that issue where we don't think the people that we would like to listen to this show are actually listening to it, but maybe some of them are, and maybe some of them catch themselves like, oh yeah, I've done that before. But like, if you can stop doing that, like, That'll start to turn things around big time.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't save the coaches that are idiots. Like, if they're the ones shutting this off or who hate what we write online,
Yeah.
and like lash out at us, they're gone, and you're not going to reach them. It's the coach on the bubble, the open-minded coach who's open to self-reflection and understands that this problem is something that they can easily get sucked into, because there's a fine line between being a coach and being drunk with power, or being in a position of any authority. This is what happens, right? This is the history of humanity.
Yeah.
People get a position of authority and they fall in love with the authority rather than why they went into it.
Yeah.
And I think we see a lot of coaches and they get trapped.
Dude, and they're literally different people from when the first day you meet them, or they're running for office, or you meet there's a team meeting in the gym.
Yep.
And then you have the first tournament, first two or something, and they're like, they seem reasonable. I don't know, right?
Yes.
But then sure enough, like, they're challenged or they feel threatened, and then out comes the tyrant, and then it's just in like the last quarter of your season, or a third or half. I don't even know, right?
Well, this is why we have that expression too. You don't know who someone is until they go through adversity.
Yeah,
But
actually,
when
totally.
they feel threatened, that's where you really expose who people are.
That's true. I like at least in college, we had our final project that was like that, and I talking with my prof afterwards, he's like, yeah, like I wasn't expecting we had to make like a medical device. Like, he's like, I don't expect these things to work, especially when you're a college student. The whole point is it just to be unbearable. And then you see what teamwork is like, because that's the getting us ready for our job or whatever.
Right.
And it totally worked, because you see people check out, or you see you can actually depend on, or
who
like has blowouts
character
and all this
test.
stuff.
Yeah, it's a test of how you handle adversity.
Yeah,
and that's sort of where, I mean, if we bring it back into this topic, I mean, I just like it's just to sum that up. The reason why I was going into that little rant was because coaches don't understand the big picture. So, we not only have I worked with training coaches, but I've also now been through the full journey as a parent and tried multiple club teams. So and I can see. So I know that it's not us too, because like
you're acutely aware of it right now. Sure.
And I see other coaches and what they're like. So I've seen coaches where we're like, that's a great coach. That team is well maintained. That coach cares about getting people involved, and that those teams win too, right? I've seen coaches who push young players to do like. So the other thing that we're going through this year is that they had me come in for practice to help out, and so I was teaching the kids about aggressive serving and aggressive serving. And this coach, this coach is telling them not to serve aggressively, just get it over. He's used this phrase several times, just get it over, and I'm like, that's the loser's mentality, right? These girls are 17 and 18 years old, and you're telling them to just get it over.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Like, just, it's such a loser's mentality, and it drives me nuts. And then, so like in the last tournament we went to, one of the girls that really embraced the idea, she knows who I am, and she's wanted me to coach her more and more. She had 4 jump serve, like, jump floats that were like rockets down, aces, right? Unreal. And then the next time her turn comes around, she serves it into the net, and the coach takes her out and says, you got to get your serves over. And it's like, so you forget the 4 aces?
I can't.
You just saw the miss, and you're gonna. And she was like livid. She was shaking her head on the bench. So this is a coach who's lost control of a team because
she was mad at herself.
No, she was mad at him.
Oh, okay.
She understood that like what are you saying? Right? Yeah. But just because she's been influenced by, like, she's done some of our other programs, and she's played other places, right? And she knows. She wants to make a varsity team next year, so she knows what they serve like in the next level, and she's very, and so same with my kid too. Like, just it's just like I said. So coaches, when we go after this, unless you've had a kid play club through the system, I don't want to hear from you, because like the parents, and by the way, and so we're getting into this today. Parents have seen this stuff, okay? And you don't even need to know volleyball. Like I had conversations with other parents on the team who are livid about the way their kids being treated, okay? You don't need to be a volleyball person to know when a coach is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
You just need to be a person.
Yeah.
Okay, so parents, this whole thing where coaches hide behind like, oh, they don't know volleyball. Now, in some cases, that's definitely true. Where the parent doesn't know some things, and that's fine. But the real thing is, you just have to be a person to understand that psychologically what you're doing to kids is ruining them. So if your kid comes home from volleyball practice and hates the sport, or several kids on the team hate the sport, it's not about X's and O's, okay? So coaches, if you have half your team hating your guts, then you're a crappy coach and you need to look at yourself in the mirror. I know nobody wants to do that in our society, and coaches are the first ones to point that out about parents and players, but they're not doing it for themselves. So if you're that crappy coach and you have half your team hating you every year consistently, then change something up, okay? And especially when they get older, that's the real test. Because you can be a tyrant and a jerk when people are 12, 13, 14, and they don't know any better. The parents don't know any better. The players don't know any better. But if once they start hitting 15 and 16 and they start looking at each other sideways when you're teaching them something, because they've been to other camps, they've been to better coaches that do exist. Like I said, like 1%, what do you think? 5% of coaches are amazing. 5% of anybody's amazing, right? Like what we're saying here shouldn't even be revolutionary because it's true across all sectors. Most people there's a bunch of people who suck at what they do. There's a bunch of people who are mediocre in the middle. And then there's a thin sliver at the top in anything. You could be making ice cream or you could be making teams, right? That's the reality of the world. But a lot of those people in that middle or even at the bottom think they're at the top. And they don't, when the people at the top, it's funny, we talked about this before, the people in the top sliver are very self-reflective and humble, and they will change their theories when presented with new evidence, right? When new evidence emerges, people at the top usually are very flexible. That's what makes them a great thinker.
Yeah, that's part of what exactly
that's part of
to get there.
That's part of the greatness formula, right? That's another show we'll do too, right? About the greatness formula, right? Like there's a formula for that all great people follow, whether it's business, sports, acting, whatever, right? And they don't have it. So I just want to set the stage for that first, because there, when we're talking about quitting, how much of that do you want your child to tolerate? Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to get into such a spicy. But it is like, it really, I was sitting there and, we're trying to see before the show what we're going to talk about or whatever. And then you mentioned like this one, and I'm just sitting there again, like in my experience, like I never had a super bad coach. I did like later, but that was like outside a club. Mm-hmm. And then it's fine because I at least had a team I could compete with. But like when you're talking about quitting, the first thing that runs through my mind, again, because it's this stark contrast.
We should point out, though, in that discussion, sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but when you played in a time when there was not this massive growth in volleyball that we're having today.
And that's what I keep...
coaching has gotten diluted, right? Like you played in a time where the people coaching were qualified, good people in sports, and they weren't inundated with numbers. Today, because the numbers have exploded in youth volleyball, it's become, hey, we'll get anybody to coach. And these guys and girls that go into coaching today, they start drinking their own Kool-Aid. They start believing in their own power, and they start to think they're geniuses because they watched a YouTube video. Most of them, I'll be honest with you, don't even watch YouTube videos because they know it all. Dude, they played high school volleyball, or they learned from the coach who coached them, or they'll coach and that coach might have been an idiot. So sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. Like that's exactly it. I keep comparing it to this image I have, right, of where. Yeah, the coaching quality was there. Like these are all former athletes and stuff like that. And I just hear you talk about there's so many no, I don't think it is different between boys and girls anymore, but like hearing saying there's a bunch of crying like 4 times in a tournament or something, or 4 different girls crying at a tournament.
Yeah, 4 17, 18-year-old girls were basically on the verge of tears or crying, and about half the team wanted to quit.
Yeah, like how that's just brutal. If I think I had one tournament when I was younger where I cried just because like loving the game so much and like losing, or I'm pretty sure
passion,
or it would have been like some straight up criticism from one of the coaches that I had a lot of respect for, right? And then it's like, and then I think I'm pretty sure I would have ended up crying because I feel so bad for having let them down, or for them being so what feels like mean to me. I probably like maybe cry in the moment, but then makes me a better player like later on, but. If you have, like, I'm just imagining myself as that kid. Like, if I, like, routinely on a tournament, like, ended up crying or hating it, then, like, what is that going to do to me, like, if I do 4 seasons of that?
Yeah.
So, as much as, like, quitting sounds bad, but we have to define it. Like, is this quitting, or is this actually doing a duty that needs to be done to help protect the sport? Because maybe... I can only hope, like, how else is change going to come about? This is one way. This is a way to give very clear feedback to the coach that if, like, all of a sudden the majority of the team quits, that team is now folding. That's a pretty distinct message, not only to the coach, but to the club director. And then maybe they'll be like, okay, what's, like, going on here? And then, You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
So
This is how bad ideas keep going. This is why society, like, the harder thing is to quit sometimes, right? A lot of people like to make staying the hard thing, but sometimes it's harder to quit and send that message.
Totally.
That's the activist thing, right? Where you are trying to send a message and you're even sacrificing something you love because there needs to be a sign sent. That's sort of where I've always been in my life. Like, I've always kind of erred on the side of activism. That's why, like, we're doing this even, right? Because I can't just sit by and let stupid things happen or unfair things happen. And if the kids are crying, like in your case, like, and same with me, like if there's been a time in our lives where we were upset because of us or because we let someone down or because we know that person knows what they're talking about and they criticize you and that can upset you. But if you don't want half your team wanting to quit because of injustice, right? If your team is feeling that you are being, incompetent.
It's this superficial ambiguity. There really isn't any ambiguity. This is like leaving for your own like sense of integrity, and then quitting because it's just too hard are two different things. But because of this superficial level ambiguity, that's what these coaches or other people are going to defend. It's like, oh, you shouldn't be quitting. Like, give your coach the time of day or respect, and you should see the season through. Like, I'm just foreseeing the arguments we're going to get against this, right? And like, this isn't
respect is earned, right? Like, let's stop living in this era of you should blindly you blindly respect positions of authority. No, because like then you let people abuse people. You don't let people. You need to. You start with the respect. You start with the respect, of course. But the minute that respect the minute they don't respect you, then, we're human beings, your respect will diminish. And the worse it gets, the less your ability to tolerate. And, you also have an obligation, I think, when someone's this bad.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have an obligation.
You're practicing respect for yourself.
Yeah.
Man.
And what are you teaching your kid? So parents, like if you're living in this situation, very similar to what we were talking about, there is a difference, like Eric said, between quitting because this is difficult and I need to work harder to earn more playing time versus this is no longer serving us. So like that's a great way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
So is this benefiting you and your child? So
if your tournaments are painful, emotionally painful, and
I mean, but like, so what I mean is like, if it's benefiting you. So your child, let's suppose your child isn't playing because they're not legitimate. We did this in the help my kid isn't playing episode. But if your kid isn't playing because they are legitimately not there yet, okay, so you have to be very honest with yourself. If your kid goes in, makes a bunch of errors, and the coach plays them a little bit less, is there benefit in your child working their ass off in practice, working their butt off, in the gym, and trying to get, don't swear on the show.
Yeah.
Is there benefit? So there is some benefit to be gleaned from that. If your child is already there, skill level, and is working hard. Now, is there benefit in working with jerks? There is, right? I tell my kids this all the time. There's real benefit in learning to work with jerks or work with jerks. But there's also a fine line where you have to teach your child, male or female, that do you suffer how much abuse or how much crap do you put up with just because there's no logic in what they're doing. There's no why, right? As a coach.
Do you think some of this may be that,
No, that's okay.
Do you think some of this is that maybe parents aren't checking in with their kids as much to be able to get this?
I think parents get it. I think the problem is, so there's a financial concern.
Because what you're saying to me is it sounds like, is your kid, like getting better? Like, so it's not just like, they're getting better technically at certain skills or stuff, but like, and that's a great example. The kid who isn't getting a lot of playing time, and they're still not getting a lot of playing time, but you see them in the struggle and you see them kind of acknowledging this challenge and trying to continuously meet it. So they're trying harder in practice and they're making sure they're not late and stuff like that. Like if you're seeing, I guess I'm just describing the process. If you see them working away at it comparatively to like, are they just like going to a darker place? Are they like getting really quiet? Are they like learning to accept abuse?
And I think most parents see it right away. So like, even most like, you know, parents have a semi decent
Because then
relationship.
they're gonna have blowouts and stuff at home and stuff like that.
And just on the court, like, you know, at the tournament, parents can tell when their kids are having fun and they're benefiting and they're not, and it's becoming miserable.
You must be able to, like, obviously they're.
So if it's becoming miserable,
kids.
if it's exactly, and you live with them 24/7, and you've seen them since birth, and so it's pretty easy for parents to see when their kid is not getting something from something. But you know, so that's the question though. Like, there are parents who sometimes will quit because their kid just isn't getting playing time. The real answer is, like, if your coach has a why, like this is it, right? Like, if your coach can give you really good explanations for what they're doing and they make sense, I mean, that's all it is.
That's
right?
all. Yeah.
Like,
that's all your kid's asking for too, right?
That's all the kid's asking for. And if the answers don't make sense, or it's like I keep,
dude, it really is that simple in an athlete's mind. It's like, if you want me to do this, just explain to me why, or let me experience it, and then it's set, and then I move on to the next thing, and then I just keep doing it.
This is why this is why people, I don't understand these coaches that don't understand this. Like, there are very few meritocracies in the world, like genuine things that are based, and one of them is sports. Okay?
Right.
Sports is a it's the ultimate. Sports and business are it, right? And those are two areas like I've done well in. And I just tell people all the time, you can't fake it here. Like, you can't. So when I see a coach tell a player the wrong thing, and the player knows because they've gone out, they've tried it, like you said, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they know I should not be standing here, or I should not be serving this way.
Yeah.
This feels wrong.
Coaches, just so you know, that athlete is standing in line, rethinking that over and over and over and over and over again, like for the whole practice.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Like, I mean,
just thinking, why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it?
I mean, I could give you, there's another funny story. Okay. Our team was sitting last tournament. Our team sat for like an hour and a half waiting for the next match. Okay. And, you know, my daughter's one of the better hitters on the team. Okay. So she comes out to do her first hit after an hour and a half wait. Okay. Set is very low from the setter. She's not warm. My daughter goes up, hits it into the net. And waiting for her is the coach to give her advice on how to get her hits over in the warm-up after an hour and a half wait with a low set inside. And my daughter just says, oh, yeah, the set was low. I'm a little stiff. And that comes off as arguing maybe to them. But I'm like, well, that coach was just waiting for the best player on the team to mess up so they can show her that I still have valuable advice to give you, you know. I still, as much as I'm telling you all these bad things and you don't agree with them, because they can see it on her face, right? Like, she's been coached at a higher level. Okay,
that, sure. But you also, I mean, I guess you do it as still a bit at a kid's age, but you don't coach during the game or the warm-up. What coach is out there being like, oh, I don't know,
you're Eric.
What are you doing,
so
man?
many people are shutting off their YouTubes here. That's all coaches do in club. Like 99% of coaches, only the good coaches shut up and let, like, warm up.
I can kind of understand it in club and stuff. Like, no, I did receive it as well. It makes sense.
This is
like
18 years, they're 17 and 18.
There it doesn't really make sense, but at least not like talking about technique and stuff like that, or it'd be more so checking in on where's their mental state at for the game or something. But you know,
how about this? How about once they hit a certain age, coaches, why don't you let your 16, 17, 18-year-old players actually make decisions on the court?
Yeah, right.
Like,
let them get into their own jam.
Stop telling them what they can't do.
Let them figure out their own stride, because they're going to go.
And I'll be honest, like, we're doing a show on this. Like, volleyball is sexist.
Right.
Volleyball is sexist. This is
like,
I don't think anybody limits boys as much as they limit girls, and it's so sexist. Like, they tell me, like, I've heard our coach this year tell this team, and they've told me this, the players, they said girls don't run quicks. Girls don't run quicks. Girls don't block the middle, like outside hitters. They don't try to block the middle. Girls don't run quicks. And there's this sexism in it, because it's this, I hate, or girl, just get it over. They would never say that to an 18-year-old boy.
We should go watch do we know anyone with a 17-year-old
boy? Well, I've seen the turn, like, you know, they've shared venues.
Oh, they're right.
And I mean, I coached club, like I coached boys.
Yeah.
That's all I ever coached was boys. And you know, I mean, I was different because I was a player, so I was always telling guys to go for it. But the problem is you can't stop a boy.
And a little bit like...
But a girl is agreeable, right?
Right.
A girl is polite.
Boys will snap back at you.
Boys will snap back and they'll say, screw you. And then the coach will be like, okay. And I see the coaches, like the mindset's totally different on the boys side. The girls, though, because they're polite and they're raised to be polite, and maybe genetically women are more agreeable, right? Like they're more less likely to disagree. Even you see this in workplaces, generally speaking.
Yeah,
not
there's
in all
still
cases.
certain girls that will snap back.
So these coaches sense this though.
Yeah,
and they
and they know they
use
can get away with it.
Yeah, and that's probably why they're coaching girls, because they think they can push them around. That's okay. We're fired up.
I feel like I've sworn.
We're fired up today.
A little fired up. Yeah,
I got my morning workout in today. So
that's what it is.
Why do we quit working out, by the way? Some sort of brain damage that humans have, right? Like, we know it's good for us.
Oh man, we could rant for this for
brain
hours.
damage, right? Yeah. Oh man, I had an injury and I had some other stuff that kicked me in the gut recently, but sort of knocked me off my workout plane, right? But
6 months?
6 months. What do you mean?
With the injury, like
the injury was
until you could start
October, November, December, January.
You were already moving the muscle, but like
it's 5 months
to get back to doing like
5 months. Yeah. Yeah, and then that other stuff happened that really.
yeah.
But you know, but it's just brain damage, because even if you have those issues, like the workout makes you feel better anyway. So
yeah.
But then again, every show, if I worked out every morning,
we could go off
every
on
show would be a rant every day. But anyway, speaking of brain damage, so
we'll do a 30-day challenge, you and I.
30-day challenge. They're fake. You have to do it. It has to be a lifestyle. It has to be. Yeah, and I think I have the lifestyle, so I get so miserable when I don't exercise. But anyway, people think you're miserable now.
Yeah.
This isn't miserable. But I think what we're saying is that parents, if your kids are not benefiting in any way from club volleyball, and you have a tyrant, there is nothing wrong with switching teams if you can, or leaving the club. But I think a financial issue, that's one thing we haven't talked about. A lot of parents, once they're in, because club is so expensive now, right? And we were in a position, we were lucky enough that we were able to easily leave a club and eat the few $1,000 that we paid that club. Because for me, I would rather give up the money. And we were financially able to do so. But I don't want my kid to be in a situation that's so toxic. I want to teach my kids about like genuine, walking away from toxic situations, especially for girls. It's very dangerous to leave your girls.
Maybe that's the way to kind of measure this out, is that if it's now coming down to where leaving the team is now the harder choice, maybe there's a bit of an indication there. Like, I love that. I guess it's not a paradox, but like if you're in a situation where the best thing for you is to leave and to get out of it and to make change, but you don't do it because the situation isn't quite bad enough. So it's tolerable, but not bad enough. And it's in this weird, muddy, icky middle place. You don't leave. You actually stay in it, even though it would be the absolute best thing for you. Because ultimately staying in that, whatever, say it's like a job or a relationship or whatever, if you just give into it and stay in it that day, then it's going to be a year, it's going to be 5 years, 10, 20, 30. And it ultimately, like, who knows what your life could have been like if you had done the harder thing and just changed things, right? So it's like, and I think that's why I call it a paradox. It's like you're most in need of change, but you don't do it. But if the situation was absolutely awful, where, people are actually abused, or like the job becomes so unbearable, or then that's actually what pushes people out the door, and then they go and they find change. So in that regard, it wasn't an easy choice. The choices are kind of made for them, right?
Yes.
And in this situation, it's like the choice can be made, but staying is easier, and just putting up with it and then telling yourself, well, next season, we'll get a different team or a different coach. Whereas the actual harder thing is, having that talk with your child, or if I'm talking to the kid's talking with their parents, like, hey, I actually think we need to resolve, like, get out of here. And then you have to obviously confront the coach, but confronting the coach shouldn't be the hard part of this whole thing at all.
Exactly.
It's probably between you and your kid, and like actually being like, like acknowledging and going over the reasons and be like, I think, we agree. Like,
well, I think the worst thing too, because like, most people listening to this might say, well, shouldn't there be a conversation with the coach first? But if how you do anything is how you do everything, and I can predict. Well, I mean, before they leave. Maybe there should be a discussion. But if you already know,
well, no, you're not. You're just saying we're leaving. It's not like, you mean to see if they should stay?
Well, so a lot of people would say that before we quit, we need to let the coach know about our feelings, and the coach will then. But the problem,
what's the point in that?
Well, you're shaking your head. Why? Go ahead, explain.
Well,
why.
like, I don't think. Yeah, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Like it's sorry, this sounds so much like relationships, and I'm not a relationship expert. Like
it is,
but like it's like there's an issue. Maybe I don't know. This is getting weird now. Yeah, you can talk about it and you can try and change it, but like obviously that you give it a shot, and then if it still doesn't change, and the reason why is it won't change is because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. People are just so accustomed to these ruts or whatever. And also, if this is the same coach that we're talking about that starts the season in one way, they're all happy and agreeable and appearingly reasonable, but then as the season goes on, they turn into this tyrant. That also shows what they're, just like we've said, like the pressure cooker situation. People are now questioning them, and their real personality comes out, which is this little tyrant or whatever. In that regard, it's already been proven to you who they are at their core, right? So there's no debate. It's just like, hey, we're leaving. Thank you for the season. Leave it in that regard.
Because the problem is, how they're going to react.
Yes,
that this person, based on history, is going to react. That's
they're going to take it personal and all this.
Yeah. So like in our personal situation, we are going with that thing right now. We're like, do we leave or do we stay? And I've told my kid, like, so this is a vital year for her. Like, she has to invite some coaches might come out to watch her, post-secondary coaches, right?
Yeah.
So is there some benefit to staying? Because we have video clips for a lot of video clips and everything, right? But is there benefit in staying? Is there something here? Like, can we turn this negative into a positive?
Well, okay.
And but the only thing she keeps flashing, and I keep flashing in my mind, is every practice where this person is repeatedly telling you the wrong information, setting you up for failure, and then punishing you if you question it or if you try something else. Because this is not a coaching philosophy, by the way, these coaches are talking about. This is not a different version of things. This is this version that they're telling them. And again, so many coaches in our history don't know anything about what they're saying. They don't even look it up on YouTube. They don't even look it up anywhere. Like, they don't even watch a game.
I can't believe it. This game has been around for so long. There's a course system.
And there's a couple core systems, and you if it was anywhere if that was the issue.
Right, there's a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, if that was the issue, if it's a philosophical thing, I guess, unless it's like playing it safe. But this is like so fundamentally wrong. And then the added burden of like doubling down. Yeah. And like
that's what I couldn't believe that.
Making them run physical, like touching lines and
I know
suicides.
Who this person is. And like when I first heard, I'm like, oh, that's great. Like they're
coaching.
Excited.
We were excited. This person told us that they were talking about other coaches in much the same way about how insecure they are and he won't. And then early red flag was that he got a female assistant coach who was pretty athletic, sporty, had played some volleyball.
Got rid of her, right?
Got rid of her and her daughter really fast. Really fast. Like, it was very weird how quickly that player went from starting setter to libero.
That was the first flag.
That was the flag.
I remember it.
To libero to off the team, like right away. Yeah. And it was very weird.
Because this was a player that would snap back, right? And the parent was.
Yeah, and
right?
I think there's I think there's a female issue here. So there's a sexist issue here. And like we've talked about that this is not healthy for our kid, our daughter, to be in. Again, so I don't want to get too specific into our issue. Well, I have already, but I guarantee you there's a zillion parents out there with the same thing.
Yeah, like I think you're talking about like it's not you're getting off track. It's like this is the reason why we're talking about this.
And we're torn. We're torn about, do we quit? Do we stay? And like one of the things we're talking about is like there is benefit in dealing with jerks. There is benefit, right? And then the other thing is, though, how does she go to practice every day for multiple days a week? And sit here, like, because
what can you get out of it? Have you guys talked about that? Like,
I mean, working with a jerk,
or is reps even, like, it's just reps right now? It's just that,
and it's not even reps,
and it's like exercise, or if the quality of the reps are bad, like,
and there's these micro corrections that are like, so if every time you do
even
something,
the reps are compromised.
They give you bad advice.
Yeah.
Like every rep, is like.
Well, the funny thing is that actually deep down they're so soft that as a player you could do your jump serve or whatever just as however you want it. What are they going to do? Like, oh, don't jump serve, and you keep doing it.
Well,
they're so soft.
That's what. So listen. So this is what happens.
I guess
at the start of the year,
they'll make you run.
He told my daughter not to spin serve to get her first few serves over, and this is garbage that our coaches say. Coaches, stop overvaluing the spin serve, okay? The spin serve is just a serve. The fact that you never played high-level volleyball is why you think it's so high up there. It's not.
Really,
it's just a serve. Don't tell me that I need to get my standing serve over 5 in a
you're
row.
overvaluing it by
Like, give me a break. Like, just let the player, teach them how to do stuff and let them figure out what works best for them and for the team and to get the other team in trouble. I hate it when these coaches who never played talk about, like, that's all I did. Look, I played volleyball for 40 years. Like, honestly, 40 years I've been playing volleyball. Okay, and I spun serve or jump served since I was spin served. I don't know. I jump served for like 30 years, and that's all I did, and I didn't think of it as elevated.
And
I still hated the standing float serve.
That's what you want to get with the spin serve. You want to get to the point where it's nothing because,
and there's only one way to get there. There's only one way to get there.
To keep doing it.
To keep doing it. Anyway, so let me finish that story.
Yes.
So he told my daughter at the start of the year, he said, don't spin serve until you get your. So they go to play an exhibition game against a college team, and I was like, what's he talking about? I said, just spin serve. And so then she went, she got like 5 aces to start, and he's like, oh, great serves. And then she spin serves all year, and he would never. I know, because they're just like they think that winning.
Now he's cheering it on.
Now he's cheering it on, and it's one. Like, she served out matches. She came back 6 points in third sets, and it's the hero thing. He would never tell her not to. So that's sort of what you've taught the player, by the way, is not to listen to you. So from day one, he taught my daughter, don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. And now he wants her to listen to her, though, because because the whole team, he's losing the grip on the whole team, because these adult girls are now questioning him, and he's like batting down the hatches. He brought in his buddy as an assistant coach who knows less about volleyball than him, and he's just like, I need support, and he's just blaming everybody else, just like a toxic. These coaches, and he'll tell everybody it's the toxic players. He'll tell everybody it's the weak player, toxic. They can't handle adversity.
What would he say if, like, all of a sudden she misses, and then your daughter goes and talks to him and asks him, well, why were you cheering me on when I got the spin serves in? I wonder what he would say. He'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. How do you, like, that's a confrontation of their sanity. And it wrapped up in such a simple little question.
Well, here's the other thing too. So when he would come to me after matches and ask for advice, okay, and he would listen to what I was saying. Yeah, I remember this as well. He would listen to what I was saying, and now I look back and I go, is it because I'm a man? Like, if I was a woman, would you ever come to me and ask? Because just based on what we're seeing here, right?
Good point.
And so I remember, like, after a match, he came to me and he said, "Oh, our backcourt defense was really weak in that match." And I said, well, it looks like your backcourt defense is weak, and sure, but those rallies should have ended because you should have thumped the ball, because I knew he was telling players to just roll it over, to tip it into the pot, because he was trying to win against his team.
He wouldn't even consider the fact that his offense was the reason.
Well, he was punishing them for swinging. He said to them in the huddle after the game, he said to them, we're going to run lines because you guys weren't tipping it and rolling it in the pot. You were trying to swing. What universe?
Holy crap. So the sexism pervades all the way into his team strategy for girls volleyball.
Yeah.
And that they're not athletic or strong. They can't put a ball away, which means just bang on it to make it hit the court or beat. Wow, that's
he's coaching for whatever.
He's
coaching for the opponent.
I hate to say that is what this is, but it's like, it looks like it, man.
But that's so the bigger picture, really, though, is that's a coach who's trying to coach for a win, for his benefit, rather than develop a player for their benefit. Like, rather than saying, hey, you guys might be going to play varsity in post-secondary next year, you need to learn how to swing really hard. He's like, I want to win this game right here, right now, against this team who is vulnerable to the tip and the roll in the pot. So we're going to sacrifice all these reps of swinging into the block, using the block.
Even that's delusional, though. Because you can still beat a team that's susceptible to.
Like, I'm not saying it's right, but it's never right.
It's never right. No, exactly.
And that's the best
point.
You want a team to tip and roll to the pot, have them swing most of the match, and then the tips are way more. That's how the only way tips work is if you mix them in, not if you adopt them as this full, like the whole team will call free ball.
You know why I'm laughing, right?
Yes, because it's so obvious.
Well, because I had a coach who was all about the tip to the pot, and he was the only coach that what I would say was
Please say this was like grade 6.
No, this was.
Say it.
This is my first. This is my second varsity team coach.
Varsity in college.
Yes.
This is in college volleyball, a college men's volleyball team telling you to tip to the pot as a strategy.
And you know what one of our biggest drills was? And I I still haven't put the mental energy into trying to figure out what the purpose of it was, but continuation, continuation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, continuation is difficult because I think what a challenge is it's about placing a ball. But then when it gets to the point of continuing a rally like 25, 50 times and we're just roll shotting it to each other.
Explain continuation to people listening. So parents who don't know what that is.
Yeah. So we would just set up, you can do it with like 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 or 6-on-6, but it's like you would set it up where you're going to run like a predicted set offense or even unpredicted, but it's like all the left sides are just going to get all the balls and then they're going to hit a ball. Again, yeah, I don't understand it. 60, 70%
right
at the attack defender in 5, and they're going to pop it up.
So we call these sometimes cooperative drills. True. This is where you're not trying to kill it. You're trying to keep the drill going. Yeah.
And the good thing of it is that you see the defensive system setting and then resetting, setting, resetting, and then the offensive system does the same, executes and then resets, right? So it's just cycling. It's great. But then when we're in college ball, I was already 27. I've been playing for a long enough time. I had a bunch of fourth-year vets on the team. And so we're all doing this drill. But then as we go on, we would just want to start banging on the ball. And then we would hit it at each other. But then sure enough, everyone once in a while is going to miss and not hit the defender. And then the rally dies. And then the coach would freak out because we're not doing continuation. And so then we would reset and then we would start again. And then by the end of it, we're just, because there's like punishment involved, like push-ups or something, we're roll shotting it.
So you don't get punished.
What are we doing here? Like, what are we actually doing here? So
yeah,
I don't know why I went on that rant, but
no, but that's sort of the idea that the
the tip to the pot and stuff.
Yeah, the wrong strategies that and just so parents, there is a time to quit, and it's when it's not benefiting yourself, especially
I don't even think you call it quitting. It's not. It's just called
time
like
to
you're just leaving the team.
Well, remember the expression "we don't suffer fools." Remember that? Like that's an old expression that nobody says anymore, but we don't suffer fools. And what that means is you walk away from an idiot. And
why? Because if you stay in there, what are the you will staying around like people like this, it'll start to have an effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just keep tolerating it, what are you doing to yourself? And then if you do it again the next year and the next year.
Well, there's that mental health thing, right? Like there's that mental health for your kid, mental health for you.
Is that the reason for that expression though? Do you think we don't tolerate fools?
I think we don't suffer fools. I think the reason for that expression is that it's just a waste of time. Like there's nothing productive to be gained from working with a fool. And it's also about self-respect.
It's worse than that.
It's self-respect.
Yeah.
Right. It's self-respect.
It's dangerous as well.
Yeah. And I've had moments in my life too where I've walked away from things out of self-respect. Yeah. And I people sometimes look at like some of the things I walked away from and they're like, wow, wouldn't have done that. And I'm like, well, that's because I don't like being treated or demeaned in a certain situation, right? And I want my kids to learn that too. I don't want them to think that, but it goes back to the same old thing because we are seeing parents. So this is what happened. I don't think I told you about this, but the players in person on tournament day were very upset.
Last
tournament. They were all visibly upset, angry. Some players wanted to quit. And
see, this also shows why you're not delusional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a player who wanted to quit after the first game because the vibe of the team, everybody's energy was off, and they wanted to leave. So, then what happened was this is very telling. I didn't tell you this. So the players have their group chat and they were talking about it a couple days later about what are we going to do, or we're all upset. And then a few of the players all started to change. Like, I mean, some of the most vocal players who have been vocal for weeks about this coach were like, well, maybe we should just maybe we should just go, and it was like, okay, so this is how it happens.
Oh, wait, they said maybe they should go.
Maybe they should just put up with it and not even put up with it. Maybe he's right. Like, this is what was happening.
Oh, man.
They were shifting. So this is the danger, right? And this is like, to me,
this is the danger. Yeah.
I was flashing into like all sorts of like, okay, here's that agreeableness again. Here's the I don't want to rock the boat because I hate to say it, but I'm just a girl thing that I was seeing in these players. Or my daughter was telling me, and she was getting angry. My daughter was like, so wait a minute. So you said this at the tournament and you saw this. So you think that that's okay now? And she was shocked at how fast they were turning into, maybe we should just go along with it. I hate to tell people, but history is filled with horrible examples of people saying maybe we should just go along with it. And some of our recent history has been like that. And I saw it happening, and I was like, wow, that player saying that? That player, and we were talking this. I was fascinated by it, and my daughter, thankfully, was getting more angry with the teammates for not standing up for something that they really believe in. And remember, these are adult girls now. These are 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds on this team. There's several 18-year-olds on this team.
Mind you, one had already left, right? Like we talked in the start.
Yeah.
The coach.
Yes. One already quit and went to another. Luckily, there was another team for her to go to at the time. But So, and she was like forced out in a weird way, right?
Right. Okay.
So my daughter now was like, I don't know. Like, there's a few players that are still with her, and they're like, you know what? If you quit, I'm gonna quit. And a couple, who knows? Maybe that might spark some other players to quit if it happens. I don't know if it's gonna. We're still in this weird limbo.
Two more tournaments.
Yeah, 2 more tournaments. It's near the end of the season, but
why go play nationals if you're literally not excited about it?
I know that's the discussions we're having, and I'm sure that's hopefully this is probably discussions that other parents are having listening to this too. Like, when does it become? I think the only, like, if it weren't the 18, the 18s year or the final year of club, I think there might be, I mean, again, we have to, we're still, by the way, in the process of thinking about this.
Yeah.
We're still
because the only thing that stands out for you and your daughter is that she can be on the court with her friends, right? And they can be playing. But if that element of the game, like, it already looks like he's getting into the warm-up element, and he's already like getting in kids' heads.
He's been there the whole time.
So I know even during games, he's doing the same thing.
Remember I told you, he told their season-long middle, who's an undersized
middle.
All of a sudden at a tournament in February, end of February, he says, "You're too short." This is like 5 months into the season. "You're too short to play middle. You're playing outside." And then he screamed at her for being out of position.
Like, loud enough for everyone to hear?
In the huddle, and the whole team was there. "You're too short to play middle." Why was I doing it for 6 months then? Now you're left side all of a sudden.
That also proves they don't. Yeah.
And then
he's left side.
And then he's yelling at the player. He's yelling at her for not being in position.
What is
happening? My daughter in the huddle was like, "Well, she hasn't played there.
Yeah.
So she would
how
know."
do you? Yeah.
Setting them up for failure, then yelling at them, and then this
right.
girl,
so that's affected, and then if the on court is affected, the court, like, obviously this.
And by the way,
he's coaching from the sideline all the time.
She was their best middle.
Yeah, well, so, and that's the other thing. Like, so he's gone after your daughter, one of the better players.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's gone after the best middle.
These are the vocal players.
Yeah,
these are the ones who have expressed a
Isn't
little
that
bit
interesting?
of concern.
There's way too many parallels here between this guy and just
every coach
or a dictator across history. After the strong pieces.
I know. Well, he also benched my daughter. So
man.
again, I don't care about my daughter playing a lot. Like, I've never cared about my daughter getting benched or anything. If it's legit, or even if she's not in a set, like, for fair playing time. I've always said he played her. I didn't like it. He played her every set all year, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm like, let other kids come in. They all got to get better this year, right? And but he benched my daughter at the start of this tournament, the first set, and the whole team.
Everyone knew.
The whole team is like, well, "What's this about? What's happening here?" And that's when the other player who got to play, by the way, because my daughter was benched, wanted to leave. She's like, "This is weird. I don't know why he's doing this, because he's sending a stupid message." And again, my daughter's not rude. My daughter was asking questions, and.
It's like,
and there's coaches listening to this right now. "Don't ask questions. You just listen to your coach." Well, that's great. Then, so what are you going to do? So when somebody shows up at your door wearing a government badge and says, "Come with me, please. I'm from the government." "Don't ask questions. Just listen to the government." I mean, don't ask questions. Listen to the cop. So if a cop is telling you to do whatever, you just listen to them.
Well, that's part of that's part of how they can do things, because we don't fully know the law and what we're allowed to say no to. And, right.
But you're not supposed to question authority according to these coaches. Right. Just do it. Just do it. Okay. Then you do that, coach. Why don't you do it when your club director tells you something? So this whole myth of just blindly following is how, our whole society is getting ruined anyway.
Remember, Chris Rock is like, yeah, and I drove over to the school and I went and I found the dean. I said, kick my daughter out.
This is
kick her out.
Yeah, for people who didn't, like, Chris Rock just did a live Netflix thing at this time.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, he wants his kid to go through some hard
He's like,
things.
she needs to go through public school or something like that.
Yeah,
Is that what he
yeah.
said? Or he just said kick her out?
And you know, for my daughter, like, so by the way, like, my daughter's addicted to volleyball. So leaving this would be the harder choice.
Yes.
Like, just to go back to that. So parents, like, if you're struggling with this, I will tell you right now that if it is no longer benefiting your child and the coach is like beyond reason and not anywhere near approaching reasonable or logical conclusions, the coach is just benching it, especially when they're young, right? Get your kid out of there and go play community ball somewhere. Go find some organization that runs leagues, that runs clinics, put your kid in other things, get them touching a volleyball somewhere where there's no coach controlling playing time.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we've created where we are, like, we've created an organization locally that we do. Yeah. Beach volleyball is great for young kids. Trust me, they'll develop more than they will indoor.
Way more.
Yeah. And get them into something like some youth program where the kids are playing and there's no coaches telling them what to do or what they can't do. They're not getting playing time limited because it's all about reps and touches and fun, right? It has to be there all the way through. Sports are supposed to be fun. If your kid's not getting fun from it, if they're not learning from it, I mean, again, don't mistake, hard work and struggle for putting up with toxicity and loserville, right? That's where parents, like we mentioned at the top, that's where parents get caught up in this. But the word quitter and don't quit a team sport. You're letting your team down. No, you're not letting team down. You can also be a leader by quitting, right? Like,
that's that superficial ambiguity, right? That's the argument that's going to be used against us, and it's not exactly. It's two different things completely. It's just an act of self-respect, and I keep forgetting, like, this is, your daughter loves volleyball. I forget about
it's
that.
Like an addiction to volleyball.
Yeah,
so that's why it's just tricky to leave.
Like, for some people who are playing multiple sports, it may not be a big thing. They can just leave that and then divest time and energy into something else. But for the kid who loves it, like,
in our family, like, it's volleyball is in our blood. Yeah. This is probably why things bother us more than they
for sure
should.
Well,
I think it's bothering other non-volleyball parents too. That's the thing, like, because you just see it. You see the weird, like I said, anybody, you don't need to be a volleyball person. Like, I could go watch a lacrosse coach and tell if they're a piece of, if they're a great coach or not, because of how they're interacting with players. And are they gripping to power, or are they, letting kids have fun and develop and get better, right? Yeah. So that's really the question: is your kid getting better as a person and as a player through this? If the answer is no, then don't. And don't take the short-term view, because your kid might be struggling with playing time. But if that teaches or instills in your kid, like, I'm going to work harder. Do you want it? Yes. Okay, then here's what you do. This is a little different because my daughter's playing all the time and she's, already got the skill, and the coach, plays her nonstop, I think, to a fault. Again, I think that's another toxic behavior. But where's the benefit? I think that's what it boils down to, right? And it's a tough discussion because you don't want to breed the idea. Like, here's the other thing too. Like, I think that one other thing about quitting we should probably talk about is, like, is the kid quitting the sport, or is the kid quitting that team? Right? Like, it's one thing to give up on volleyball or soccer, whatever the issue is, or are you just quitting that team because of the environment? Like, what's funny? Like, our episode that got, like, the episodes that we get listening to are toxic coach episodes and toxic players. That's another thing. That's a sort of different topic, not coach.
Those are getting the most.
But my specific issue is the coach. The girls got along really well, but it's funny because when the coach is creating now little toxic stuff among the players, some of the players now resenting other players because that player's getting my time. Or, you know what I mean? Like, the coach is
now
they're
the coach is
infighting.
going to want that because it's like, oh, attention's off me now.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not, but they're not that. It's not like a strategy they're using. It's just it's a natural byproduct of when you have a coach who's doing these types of things. The players will blame each other, like like that player was told she's too short, and she was put in by replaced by a tall player who gets a few more blocks, and even though she's their best hitting middle, attacking middle. And that player started talking about that other player. And I
Of
said,
course.
this is what happens when coaches start pitting players against each other.
What about having if you have a strategy, like what if you're like in your final years of club and you're wanting to get viewed by recruiters and stuff like that. Like, is that, I mean,
I know
I guess
that's
you
where
just
we're
have
at.
to make that call. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
where we're at. Yeah, we were toying with the idea of like, what should we like one more tournament and tell the coaches like here's where we'll be and send the video and hope that's enough. But and the other weird thing is if you quit, like I think knowing like I know a lot of post-secondary coaches, I think they've heard it a million times. I think they know exactly. So if you are clear with the coach as to like, okay, this coach said that girls can't run quicks. This coach said, just get it over. This coach tells us to stand in the wrong position and screams at us when we're not. I think they've seen that all. I think most post-secondary coaches are higher level. Like everyone that I don't know many post-secondary coaches who are idiots because they get paid a little more. They are the ones who usually give the, like, Hugh McCutcheon in the States, the idea that developing the person, not the player, results in amazing players anyway. My experience with post-secondary coaches in most schools is that they'll be aware of the toxicity at the club level.
I think so too, yeah.
Because they're seeing it, right? They're out at these club tournaments all the time watching athletes. So
what you're really worried about is just the whole recruitment process, because it's you got to put time and energy into it, and like recruiters are obviously busy, and so if that is kind of important and you have a few opportunities left to actually do that, then maybe that's a reason to
but the other side of it is too, what if they show up? What if a recruiter shows up and she's playing, demotivated, not enjoying it, bad body language?
That's
huge.
the risk.
That's what they look for, right? So like you got to be peppy, and then you're set up to fail. And I said to her, well, when I see a team that is in the wrong position, I don't tend to blame the player. I tend to think, that coach isn't in.
This goes along with the coach having the awareness. Yeah,
and
right?
These people are like post-secondary.
But that also makes it harder for the recruiter because even being aware of it, it's
if the recruiter, I think recruiters generally are like they're either it's the coach themselves or it'll be someone that they.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That
it's usually the
knows
coach and the assistant.
Yeah,
and I guess
or someone they know, someone they've hired that they.
And they've likely have seen the athlete a few times, so they can kind of get an idea of what the potential is. And again, being a good coach, it's not necessarily about how good the player is right then when you're seeing them, because you have confidence in your ability to make them better anyways. Mm-hmm. You're really looking at who they are as a person. Well, yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, it's tricky to say, well, I quit my club team in the final year, like to a coach that could be like, again, to a uninformed coach. And that's sort of what we're doing here, by the way. We're letting everybody know that there is a real problem in youth volleyball. And it's rooted, I think, in sexism, and it's rooted in too many kids playing. Yeah, because they're like, I don't know any sport that's exploding other than pickleball for seniors. I don't know of any sport. Well, it's true, right?
Pickleball for all ages.
Well, yeah, pickleball is taking over the world. Maybe we should change the show to pickleballology. Yeah, but actually, hey, write that down. No, we're very passionate. We're doing this for the sport, not for the fame and power, right? Imagine if tomorrow it's just pickleballology. No, but volleyball is exploding in popularity, and because of boys and girls, because like the concussion issue is like getting kids even away from soccer, right? Because the ball to head thing is people are talking about concussions. Football in the U.S. So what's the sport they're going to? They're going to volleyball. And same with girls sports. Like there's a lot of rough sports like lacrosse and soccer, field hockey, where there's some and then but they're all going to volleyball because that's the sweet spot. That's where you can play aggressively and hit the ball hard and relatively low risk for serious head trauma unless you get packed. saw a case recently.
Yeah, I know you can get some bad conkies in volleyball.
But you know what I mean. So numbers are through the roof, and that's making this coaching issue a problem.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this, to let people know, even post-secondary coaches, if they listen to this by accident, that that this is a real problem, and we're going to see more and more of it as society goes down this sort of toxic path we're on, where like insecure people are like going into things for the wrong reason.
It's still just so shocking. It is and it isn't. Like how, if you were just like a high school teacher and you had to teach volleyball, you can't just, you can pick up a book. There's way too many books. But you would think that because like we were saying, there are core systems. You should just be able to, I don't know, take a look at it and get an idea of how to set this thing up, and then just kind of proceed, and then just think, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that one thing I'm seeing is that
I can say that, but it's a lot harder said than done, right?
Well, I think so. Historically, what do people do, or have they done, when they are insecure and looking for power? They've gone into certain professions, right?
See, I keep looking at it in the like technical way, and then you just keep going back to the psychological, and it's so true though.
Well, it's just the bigger picture of like, so
it
like,
is, yeah.
What is the easiest thing to go into for
that
someone?
Kind of trumps the whole technical thing.
So what is the easiest thing for someone to go into if they want power and authority?
Coaching kids.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. Because if you want to be a nurse or a doctor, that's going to take years.
I can't think of anything else.
You want to be a lawyer? You want to be a lawyer or a cop or a teacher?
It takes a lot of money in you.
A manager, right? Like these take money and time. Coaching is easy.
Yeah.
Hey, I can become somebody. I can dust these nachos. Not to insult all coaches, but there's a lot of people that go in to coach youth sports because they were failed athletes, or they were they never made the team.
Yeah.
And they're kind of not really.
This is the ugly reality of sports, man. My God.
They walk into coaching kids. Well, we see it all the time.
Know.
Like, think about
It's
baseball. Think about baseball coaches, right?
No one talks about.
Yeah, think about the baseball coaches who are like screaming at little kids because that guy never played pro, or I would have made pro.
Yeah,
I didn't have a knee injury. And then instant respect, right? You get a uniform even, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, wow, you mean I don't need to take any courses officially? No.
Here's a clipboard.
That's a clipboard. And if you're really good, it'll be a white erase scoreboard shaped like a volleyball court. So so it's the easiest place to go get authority with all the numbers booming, like we talked about. That's the easiest way to get authority. Easiest way to be respected. Walk in.
So
volunteer.
Sport is still evolving because, as you said, it is one of the last standing bastions of true meritocracy. And
as society is losing our whole society is losing its meritocracy.
Yes.
Right? People are getting put in positions of authority with no qualifications.
Career-wise, it's heavily compromised if meritocracy is true or not.
So
the whole progression through post-secondary and stuff like that.
Even if you think about it, Chris Rock made a joke about this too, about even businesses are becoming non-meritocracies. Like he talked about Lululemon, putting out these ads about what things they
politically stand for.
This is all companies. Companies are now into virtue signaling and saying what they believe in rather than talking about how good their product is. And people are supporting companies for their symbols of what they believe rather than the quality that they're putting in. So even business is losing its meritocracy, or they're trying to in society. So sports are losing it too. We've talked about this. Like
losing its quality. Yeah.
Athletes are coming out of sports with the same toxic qualities. Like when we played, there were any toxic player on the court, would that toxicity manifested itself and it wouldn't be rewarded, and that kid would end up being a loser down the road. And whereas now you can have toxicity and make it pretty far.
Sport
because
acts like a filtering system. Yeah,
it used to be.
Yeah, it was a good way to kind of get yourself amongst a good group of people.
And it used to be
it used to teach right?
it used to be humility, right? Like, so you would get your butt kicked once in a while, and that's what kept you hardworking and humble. Now when kids get their butt kicked, they look around for people to blame, right?
It was so good losing with your team. Now that I'm thinking about it, when we're coming at it from this angle, for sure, like all those groups of people that I played different sports with, like it was so good to just, because now I can think about all these people I've played with before, and just turning into, like, I think good human
bonding
beings.
moment too.
Yeah, right. Like,
no, there's benefit through struggle, but so many people now, when they mess up, they blame. And like same with like that coach,
Yeah.
right? He forced out that other.
that's what I'm saying. This filtering system is compromised now. Or
Well,
I shouldn't call it a filtering system.
I mean,
it's not like what's that hat in Harry Potter?
the sorting hat.
Sorting hat, yeah. Well, the sorting hat is
Gryffindor.
he's cursed. And
Yeah.
He's messed up now. But
No, I think that sports are just a part of society. And
Yeah, and
like
how we are
everything we do, business and
gets
sports
reflected
will
in
just be
everything.
reflected in everything. And
yeah.
as society heads into this blame game, and it's not my fault, and then people aren't accountable, right? Like that's what, so some people could say that we're blaming the coach, but not really, because we're very accountable to ourselves. And the problem is the coach isn't being accountable for the results. So the end of a rally, you know what your advice is.
Yeah.
It's not working. You tell them to stand deep corners and they get tipped on 8 times in a row. And then you tell them to move up, and then you tell them to stand behind the blocker and they get swung down the line 8 times in a row. There's no self-reflection. There's no accountability.
Yeah.
And instead the coach will yell something at the player. The coach is blaming the player, right? There it is. This blaming society, blaming culture is everywhere now. And we are seeing it in sports. And it's a problem. So I think parents, if you're in the situation, you got to run somewhere where your kid is in charge of their own destiny. And that's where we're kind of leading into beach season anyway soon, at least where we are.
Yeah.
And that's a place where a kid can take some autonomy over themselves. And then the other side of it is organizational sport groups that offer youth volleyball. Go do them, because that's even another place where you can, hopefully there's no coaches. The kids can play, maybe instructional stuff with coaching, but then let them play in some league where there's no coaching like that. That's the goal, because that even in those places you can find a coach who just their own issues get reflected in how they treat your kid and how they
And I guess whether you choose to stay on a team or not, or like, you're gonna learn a lesson, and by leaving a team, it seems like a big, scary, daunting thing. But again, you do it, and you're going to learn a great lesson from that.
Yeah, and your kids will too, right? Your kids will learn things like, is money the be-all, end-all? They'll learn, should I tolerate bad behavior from an adult?
Yeah.
And that's huge, right? Should I tolerate bad behavior from an adult?
That is huge, yeah.
That's powerful stuff. That's life. Your kids will remember that, Again, if it's not serving you, so you teach your kid, listen, you're upset about playing time. What are the answers to that? We can do some things to address that. You have to do this discussion. Yeah. You can address those things, and you can challenge. Are you doing everything to get more playing time? I had another daughter going through that where she felt it was unfair. She wasn't getting playing time. I said, so what are the things you got to do to get more playing time? Are you going to do them? If not, then you got to suffer with this, and you got to learn that. If that's the issue, that's a different issue. But this is a little different, and it's not something that your kid's going to learn a lot from by hanging around. The only lesson learned now is, tolerate it, take it, right? So, fine line. But so the conclusion is, yes, it's fine to quit if the situation is crossing into that.
If it's really not serving you.
Yeah, and if the coach isn't really interested in making your child better. If the coach is interested in their own power.
We do not suffer fools. Is that it?
Yeah, we do not suffer fools. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say.
Okay.
This was
like therapy for me.
Yeah.
I sure hope that team and coach aren't listening, but they're probably not. They don't know we're doing this. So.
Yeah.
But even if they are,
or maybe that's the cause of all of this. Maybe he's been listening to all the last few episodes.
Oh my God. No.
Yeah.
I don't think if he was, then things would have been better.
Yeah,
listened but threatened. Yeah.
We try not to go off on coach. Well, people say we're going off on coaches all the time, but
that's the problem. Well, we said it before. The coach affects way more people. The coach can affect 30 years worth of team. Imagine that. 30 years, and sometimes multiple teams a year.
They affect them, and that is why people go into that position, because there's so much power in that. Okay,
yes.
So power, it's just all drawn to that position.
And they get entrenched in their own garbage.
And they affect so much. So it really is that important, but it's also more than, the situation's complex, I guess, right? The sports that we talked about all this stuff. It's a complicated
It's
issue.
complicated, but it's not complicated.
Yeah,
right. In some ways, it's very simple. I think we complicate it by throwing in stupid little stories and lies we tell ourselves.
Because it's kind of common sense and
yeah. What if you taught your kid to walk away? What if you taught your kid to walk away from horrible situations? Not tough situations, not challenging situations. There's a difference, right? Challenging situations are building. But what if you taught your kid to walk away from toxic situations? Is that ever bad?
No,
it can't be. So
Yeah.
and this is a toxic situation. So,
I think complicated is what was my term for saying the pressure that of this way that our populations are thinking now. That is that's the challenge, because it's like
the societal shift.
Yeah.
People are more. I mean, like we talked about this in our confidence issue. Like I think one of the social media is just making people so insecure.
Yeah.
And there's and the lack of doing things for yourself, right? What was it? I think I was just watching Russell Brand talk about this. I know a lot of people might not like Russell Brand, but Russell Brand was talking about, the Pavlovian experiment, where he sort of, aside from the dog experiment, he talked about like 20% of the population is very strong-willed and confident, and they are therefore, it's impossible to fall into hypnosis because they're just too strong-willed, too opinionated, and they have that confidence. 20% of the population on the bottom is very easily hypnotized, more likely, a little weaker mentally, and are more likely to fall into hypnosis. And then 60% in the middle could, kind of go either way. And I think we're seeing, like, people, if they have low self-esteem,
ratio's changing.
Yeah, the ratios are changing for sure, because as
or that shift group is.
Well, as social media makes people more insecure, and they will be falling more like into that bottom 20. So yeah, I mean that's sort of where we're at too. Like, we in this situation, I think strong people, families with pride and families with a good sense of self-esteem will be more likely to quit. And families that are a little bit not as confident will have a harder time leaving, because they don't see it as an insult of what's happening.
Yeah,
they don't feel insulted by it personally, because if you value yourself, then that's where you see these insults and you take things personally, and you're like,
oh man, this does.
It's easier to walk away, whereas if you're not valuing yourself, you take it. Right. Yeah. It's no secret that people who don't respect themselves let themselves go into worse situations, whether it's alcoholism, drinking too much, smoking, and self-destructive behaviors are tolerated by people who have lower self-esteem.
Yeah.
So,
because like those forms of addictions and stuff, they are to cope with something, right? And that's just kind of what you get to with your phone and social media. That's just another addiction. And so when you're always someone getting that fix like that, you're just vulnerable. So then if you're vulnerable to the scary things, because you're going to get that terrible chemical drop of when you do quit and all of a sudden the world seems so bleak and dark, it's because you're addicted to stuff all the time. You're getting all this like satisfactory hits, but sorry, I'm just going off on that tangent.
No, I know what you mean. No, but it's the same thing. So like
we're addicted to attention, just to bring up Chris Rock again.
The more, and quitting a team would be like, there's self-esteem wrapped up in being a part of a team, right? So even our need for team is wrapped up in our self-esteem, and social media is training our minds to compare, right?
Yeah.
All we're doing is scrolling and comparing. Yeah. So if you're always comparing, we know this, that you're going to feel inferior if you compare yourself to other people, because there's always somebody out there who's at least posting that they're way better than you anyway.
Yeah, everyone.
And then so you feel diminished, and then the more you cling to things like that team, because that team is your identity, and that team is that's how you match them. You match them with social media posts about the team, right? Your uniform. That's why people put, where they're playing in their bio, right? They put the name of their club. Youth players put the name of their club in their bio, and that's like, right? It's a little little thing. And I post videos of me getting aces. I don't show the miss serves. I don't show the shanks. I don't show the hits in the net. I don't show me on the bench. Show me on the court. And that's why, you have to have some guts, I think, and some real self-esteem to walk away from the team. So
We always go down this hole.
it does, but it's funny how that is
It
everything,
is.
right? It's literally the people who take care of themselves. Like we talked about working out today, right?
Yeah.
Why can't I shut up today? Why am I particularly fiery? Why am I confident? Because I got this weird blood rush from my workout
from
today,
doing
right?
a good thing.
Yeah, and so and from like I feel stronger today mentally and physically by doing the workout. It's weird, right?
Are you gonna do it tomorrow?
No. Yes, I will. But I'll have some Doritos while I work out.
Oh, nice. Hey,
One crunch, two crunch. Anyway, I think we should wrap that
just
up.
tape them to the chin-up bar.
Chin ups. Whoa, slow down. Slow down. I have to reduce the size of my butt before. No, see, there's some body. We shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we should wrap up. I guess.
So that's a good talk. So parents, don't hold yourself to the old standard of quitting and giving up on the team if it's toxic. The elements because you got to teach something else there, right? To your kids, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's good. This is an easy ending. All right. See you everybody next week. And
Episode 31.
31.
Is that Patrick Waugh's number, or was he 30?
31, I believe. Anyway, you just thrown a weird question at the
Yeah, I
show.
don't know. ADD. I guess my brain goes to mush after an hour.
Look at Eric. Runs to his phone.
No, I'm looking it up.
You
Patrick
sicken
Waugh.
me.
See you, everyone.